Here, Every Weather Dude YouTube channel. Joey here again, and kicking out lots of forest fire videos. I want to use some of this old footage, put it to use, get it seen more. A lot of them are on the channel already, but they never really got the views, and I just think, well, that's some good footage. I should do more with it. So let's do more with some of that footage today, and let's talk about some of the most exciting footage I have, which is the extreme fire behavior footage. Okay, let's go.
There it is. This is bad news. My God. Falling out right now. Anything could happen.
I'll watch the video later. Welcome to the channel. Please hit like, share, subscribe. I'd appreciate that very much. Today we're dissecting the anatomy of extreme fire behavior. It's a phenomenon that transcends simple combustion. We explore the complex interplay of factors today that transform wildfires. What makes just an average fire suddenly become a catastrophic event, which makes a fire stand up and move so fast that you just can do nothing but get out of the way. We'll be talking about that, particularly in relation to the fuel types you find in British Columbia and the boreal forest at large. So we're going to try to understand some of the intricate systems that drive these fires. That is over the top.
She's cooking.
I think that's a forest fire.
Are you sure?
Could be true. Holy son of a bitch. We're going to go past the fire triangle and, dig into the kinetics of exothermic oxidation reactions. The rate of these reactions, thus the fire's intensity, is governed by Arrhenius' equation. This illustrates the exponential increase in reaction rate with temperature. That's what I'm getting at. You raise the temperature, you raise the fire behavior. So in the fire triangle, there's the fire triangle, which is oxygen, fuel, and heat, right? Then there's also the fire behavior triangle, which is a little different. It's weather, fuel, and topography. Those are the three things that are really going to determine how crazy can your fire's behavior get. These elements, they do interact non-linearly. They create like emergent properties far more complex than the sum of their parts. So it's more than I can cover in a video. But just think of this as a feedback loop where each element influences and amplifies the other. So with each degree you add to temperature, with the more fuel you add, with the more complex the topography, the more chance you're going to have of extreme fire behavior.
Hey guys, let's get going.
Thank you. In BC and in the boreal forest at large, the fuel matrix presents unique complexities, especially because coniferous trees that are rich in volatile terpenes, which is the oil we discuss. When you think of wood burning, it's not the wood itself burning, it's the gases that are coming off of it. And well, especially coniferous trees are rich in these volatile terpene, which, when they get into a gaseous state, they combust. Rapid ignition and can lead to intense burning. So do also the duff layer here. It's a composite of decomposing organic matter. It's a slow release fuel. It more is related to prolonged smoldering, but sometimes you have that prolonged smoldering going on for a long time, and all of a sudden, because of fuel moisture that can be influenced by drought and heat, suddenly the energy is altered, and that's released during burning, and it makes for more intense fire. So we're going to talk about the chemical processes that drive fire intensity today. Topography introduces critical variables. Slope and aspect create microclimates, little areas in the mountain or, the hillsides or in the valleys where things are a little bit different, where the trees are different, the humidity is different. And these differences, they influence solar radiation absorption and the wind patterns regionally, right? So that can be a factor. Canyons and gullies will act as conduits. They'll channel winds, which create Bernoulli's principle-driven accelerations. And this dramatically increases fire spread when you have this happening. So the fluid dynamics of airflow over complex terrain is at play here. The formation of thermal belts and the impact of orographic lifting on precipitation patterns. So there's some variables in here that can change from location to location as well, right? But the real thing is weather. It's the dominant driver. It's more than just temperature and wind, too. We have to consider the synergistic effects of multiple meteorological variables. A critical concept is crossover conditions. This is when temperature exceeds 30 degrees Celsius, humidity drops below 30%, And it's especially exacerbated if winds reach or surpass 30 kilometers per hour. That's when you'll observe a dramatic increase in fire behavior, especially in the areas with high buildup indices, in areas that things are very dry, where the fuel load is thick, where drought has been going on, all these different things, these different variables that indicate fire spread potential, and we talk about that in the buildup indices. The convergence of factors creates an environment where fuels are primed for rapid ignition and intense combustion. The Lytton fire in 2021 occurred under a persistent thermal inversion, trapping heat and creating a radiative forcing effect that exacerbated fuel desiccation. Wind fields driven by synoptic scale pressure gradients and mesoscale phenomena like downbursts and foehn winds created rapid, unpredictable fire spread in places like that and times like that. It's an example where also atmospheric instability, quantified by indices like the lifted index and the K index, determined the potential for vertical motion, the development of convective columns that transported embers over vast distance. So what I'm talking about is how the smoke was able to become very, very aggressive, very big, very tall, and then on that actual day, some of the fires actually created their own thunderstorms, and they were able to transport embers long distances as well into the prevailing winds, but also lightning formed out of these crazy thunderheads that the fire clouds became, which we've talked about. Pyrocumulonimbus clouds in this channel here last week. You can look up the video. Okay. So let's get back to considering the impact of wind shear there. It creates turbulent mixing and enhances fire spread. And the role of lightning as well ignites multiple fires simultaneously. So one big, massive, extreme fire became many. So it's not about just the surface conditions. We're analyzing the complex interplay of atmospheric thermodynamics, radiative transfer, and turbulent kinetic energy, all forces that created the conditions for firestorms.
That's kind of fun. That's really fucking hot. Just gonna tilt my head down, keep it off my face, and I'll watch the video later. Woo! Awesome.
The consequence of these factors is extreme fire behavior, which incorporates crown fires, where radiant and convective energy ignite the forest canopy. Spotting happens then, driven by the transport of burning embers within convective plumes. Fire whirls occurring. I've seen all this. All this is in the footage there. Rotating columns of fire and smoke driven by vorticity and thermal gradients. The Okanagan Mountain Fire in 2003. And also, you'd say the 2017 and 2018 BC wildfire seasons are also examples of how these phenomena combined and made for catastrophic fire events, right? And it was really had to deal with long period of dry, low humidity weather. We observed and then what also seems to be a big factor is when a dry cold front comes in during that time, and suddenly a cool down, but that comes at the front of like strong winds. We saw that last year about the time that Jasper burned down, really, and that was driving fire behavior here in Wells, causing fires to run long distances, in some cases kilometers or tens of. The Scotts Creek fire, tens of, where I said to people days ahead of time, the conditions are going to line up now, and if that fire stands up and moves, nothing you can do is going to stop it. Get out of town. And I was exactly right about that. And everybody who was mad after the fact, the government didn't warn us, and I'm like, man, you should have been running, you should have been running long beforehand. No one was going to stop that once it got to that point. Anyways, these fires demanded a sophisticated understanding of fire behavior, right? So you got to utilize advanced suppression tactics. But you got to employ predictive modeling based on computational fluid dynamics, machine learning, things that can help anticipate fire spread, putting lots of data about what's going on weather-wise and in the climate. We rely on the integration of this meteorological data and fuel moisture measurements, terrain analysis, and that helps assess risk ahead of time. Our approach is data-driven, and it needs to be. The long-term impacts beyond immediate destruction, what are we talking about? These fires, they reshape ecosystems, they alter carbon cycles, and they impact biodiversity. They can be a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our planet and the need for a holistic approach to wildfire management on the whole. But our response is about grappling with the ecological consequences of climate change on the whole and the need for sustainable forest management practices. And, if you keep adding a little bit of temperature, a little bit of temperature, a little bit of temperature, you're going to have more days. And when you're in that crossover weather, more hours of the summer. It's kind of like how many hours of the summer does a particular region spend in these crossover fire conditions? And what we're finding is over the years, it's increased. And in some cases, substantially. Areas are seeing more fire behavior weather than they're used to. Here in Wells last year, we saw a lot of it, and it's not something you generally see. Generally, lightning would start a fire here, and it would kind of skunk around. They'd get it. They'd put it out. Rain would put it out. What would happen here last year was different, and we have to recognize that something different happened here where the rainforest dried out. Why? Why didn't we have the snow last winter? Why do we have that kind of thunderstorm here that lit that many fires? Why did we have that heat, that dryness that went on for weeks, the low humidity that sucked the water, the moisture out of everything, every little blade of grass, every little shrub, every tree, sucked the moisture out of everything until everything was so dry when that dry cold front came through and whipped up that fire after it spent all day cooking in crossover conditions. Man, it was lights out for anybody who was in the way of that. Every time it's lights out for anybody who's in the way of that. You can't do much when it's like that. And people have these grievances like, oh, they let the fire run and they did nothing. Well, good, because it wasn't worth putting people's lives in the way, because when it moves that fast, all you're going to have is risk. So anyways, thanks for joining me on this exploration I had here on extreme fire behavior. I hope to help you understand a little bit the complex systems that govern our world, and stay vigilant out there, right? And keep engaging with science, because science it shapes your future. It's your reality. It's how we find truth. That's the basic of the scientific process. Okay, well, that's it for me, I guess, today. Hit like, share, subscribe, and we'll keep coming on by. Thanks, everybody, so much.